James earns millions from internet marketing.
Tim's got millions of questions.
Welcome to Freedom Ocean. Now, jump on in.
James Schramko, welcome to Freedom Ocean.
This is going to be fun, isn't it, Tim?
Mate, it is going to be, it'll be one of the great podcasts on earning a life of freedom, I reckon.
Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of people are looking for, is something different than what they've already got.
Oh yeah. I'll put my hand up for that. What was it, a couple of months ago, I had this little inkling of an idea, this little seed of an idea that I reckon a show where I'm the little curious kid in the corner and you're the bloke sitting in front of me, and I've got all these questions about how do I develop this life of freedom? How do I go about taking at the end of the day, this is a show about doing business online, yeah? And how do I've got so many questions about that. I had you on a show that I host, another business podcast called Small Business, Big Marketing. Had you on 3, 4, 5 months ago, and it struck me that the interview we did with you was incredibly popular. It was tweeted and Facebooked and shared around the internet virally like wildfire, but it also, the amount of product we sold at the end of that show was extraordinary, and it just said to me, we've touched a nerve, yeah?
Oh yeah, have you been fishing, Tim?
I have.
Yeah, I went fishing last week, and we were doing surface fishing where we watch for the birds and the fish are active, and then we throw our lure over it and we drag it past the fish.
Were you fishing on the Freedom Ocean?
I was. It was actually Sydney Harbour, but for me, we'll call it Freedom Ocean.
Yep.
And when those fish jump on, it's like bang.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happened with that podcast. And if that was a one-off, it'd be interesting, but that seems to be happening all over the place. And I think what's happening is the general population is starting to pay attention to the internet. And I'm really looking forward to how you poke and prod my mind and see what we can pull out, because I've been dealing with people all around the world in various different places, whether they're employees or whether they've got their own business.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be fascinating to see what we can extract from this.
Well, I totally agree, and around the world too, because this is a global issue. Not really an issue, but there's a lot of people sitting there 9 to 5. Unhappily sitting there 9 to 5. I walked through downtown Melbourne the other day, and everyone's just looking down at the footpath. I want to see heads up, looking forward, heading towards that ocean. But I also think there's also a lot of, if you're not an employee, then there's a lot of business owners who are doing it hard for various reasons, not necessarily economic, or maybe they're just not doing what it is they love. Or maybe they don't know how to go about doing what it is they love.
I think that's probably it, Tim, because there's a lot of facts and statistics that, if you go and dig up, will prove that plenty of people make money in difficult times. And one of the things that one of my mentors taught me, he said that bad habits are formed in good times and good habits are formed in bad times. And I think for the sharp person who's sort of switched on to this and wants to stick through our podcast series, they'll definitely pick up tips that are not common knowledge yet, and that gives you an advantage over everyone else. And it's like the horse that wins the race, just that little bit extra knowledge can get you a compound effect. But it is a truly global thing we're talking about here. I mean, within an hour or so, you can travel around the world on Skype these days. I speak to people in London and Canada and the USA and Dubai and India and the Philippines almost every single day. And you couldn't do that 10 years ago. There was no reason and no platform for it. But it's fascinating to think that with the internet, it's always alive. It's like money never sleeps. The internet never sleeps. And you can get things working for you 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Part of me, in listening to you say that, part of me goes, yeah, but I've missed the boat. And I hear a lot of people say that as well. Oh, yeah, but there are a lot of people making money, the last few years, but is it still really that viable? Where are we at in the life cycle of the internet?
I think in terms of life cycle, most people would probably know that bell curve of product adaptation. You've got the early innovators, and then you've got the early majority come in, there's still a lot more to go. We're not even close to where it's at. I think where we're at is the gold rush has come. We've seen the first .com burst way ago in the very, very beginning of the internet field. Now what we've had is people have come into the market, they've got away with just about everything, and the market is maturing, and now we're seeing real business come into the market. The first gold rush days are finishing, the towns are being built, the infrastructure's going in place, but we're nowhere near overdevelopment or skyscraper area. It's absolutely the right time to get in.
Mm-hmm. And who's it ideally suited to, this whole notion of... In fact, before I ask you that, because I want to talk to you about internet marketing, this whole kind of, this industry name, internet marketing, is it the right terminology? Have you got a better name for it?
I think that's a suitable term for what we're talking about, and I guess we can just have a look at where it fits in the scope of things. I would say the big category is business, and a subset of business is marketing, and a subset of marketing is marketing on the internet. Mm-hmm. So what we're really talking about here is a marketing channel. So other marketing channels would be direct face-to-face selling, or print media in newspapers and radio, and then of course you've got the internet. And what's happened is the internet has become very powerful, and the way that people are going online now, especially with phenomenons like Facebook, where, for example, in our country, in Australia, half the people in Australia are on Facebook. And there's over 500 million people on Facebook. So it's just past that tipping point where you can't ignore it anymore. Mm. It's like in the old days, people used to go into picture theatres and catch up on the news, and then they started watching it on TV and reading the paper, and now they're going online. So it's just become more important.
And I think too, what we're seeing, unlike maybe 5-10 years ago online, is that most generations are now online. It's no longer left to those young people. There's a broad spectrum of people online. Bandwidth is getting, bigger, faster, cheaper. So unlike 5 years ago, it really is quite ubiquitous.
Everything's supporting it to grow. You've got internet in virtually every house. Even underdeveloped places have got internet connections now. I went to the jungle in Belize. I went to Egypt. I'm going to the Philippines. All of these countries have internet connectivity.
Just tell me about the internet connection in the jungle in Belize.
Basically, this guy had a Wi-Fi thing in a hut.
Yeah.
I'm trekking out we travel in the coach for an hour from the airport,
yeah.
and we walk another half an hour into the resort, and I get there and my iPhone works, and I'm able to do business sitting in the jungle with howler monkeys and Amazonian style snakes slithering around.
Yeah, well, and like you picked me up this morning from the airport, and as you said, this is an amazing business. What did you take? Your iPad and your iPhone.
That's it.
And waiting for my delayed flight, you were able to get stuff done.
That's it. I was able to have a look at documents that my team had uploaded yesterday, and they're in another country. I mean, I support whole families now in other countries. We've got this ability to do economic arbitrage. So, we can take old classic leverage techniques or money-making ideas like buy low and sell high. We can go to a country where labour costs a little bit less because they have lower living costs, and we can pay them a king's ransom and still resell developed services and products to Western countries for a higher profit margin. And you can do this over and over again.
And I think what's really important about that, and we're going to cover, what you touched on then was one very small aspect of what we'll cover in Freedom Ocean, but that notion of outsourcing. And that's not about finding someone for $2 an hour, which is quite easy to do, get someone to do stuff for $2 an hour, but it's about finding someone with equal skills, as you'd find here, whose cost of living is less and who has an incredible work ethic. And we've both experienced that. You to a much greater extent. I think you're on a phone call earlier today with a team in the Philippines. Of how many were on the end of that line?
Well, in that group we had